Hey, welcome back to the Cybersecurity Whisperer, your go-to podcast for cyber chaos, common sense, and a little bit of caffeine-fueled clarity. Hey, I'm your host, Elliott Franklin. Today we're tackling a whirlwind of stories. Smishing on wheels, a creepy company monetizing hacked data, a major Amazon AI faceplant, and why some CISOs need to check their ego at the door. So let's jump in. First, we're going to start with something that feels like science fiction, but it's happening right now. SMS blasters, those are mobile devices pretending to be legit cell towers. And when your phone unknowingly connects, it gets spammed with SMS phishing messages, aka smishing. Now, unlike traditional IMSI catchers used for surveillance, these blasters, they exist solely to spam phones, and they're not new. What is new is how frequently they're being used and the way cybercrime groups are turning them into a smishing superweapon. So this isn't just a hacker in a hoodie. This is organized crime with a Wi-Fi hotspot in a van, and in the past 12 months, we've seen arrests in the UK, Oman, Brazil, Japan, Qatar, Thailand, Indonesia, the Philippines, and more. These things are global and mobile. So you want to protect yourself? Well, you've got to disable 2G. Can you think that that's even a thing? Now, Android, they've got a setting for it. iPhone users, well, you've got to do lockdown mode. That's what disables 2G, but it also disables a lot more, so you kind of have to weigh your options there. Also, if you're a telco company that's listening, please give us more defenses at the network level, because until then, the onus is on the user, and that's not a winning strategy. Now, imagine your passwords, autofill data, and browser history stolen by malware. Now imagine it being resold not by some faceless criminal on the dark web, but by a startup with a snazzy website and LinkedIn page. That's Farnsworth Intelligence. They claim to have info stealer data from about 50 million infected machines, and they're selling it to debt collectors, divorce lawyers, competitive marketers, even private investigators. $50 gets you access to autofill records from real people's browsers. Researchers tested it and found home addresses, billing information, even sensitive login. And Farnsworth doesn't stop there. They encourage buyers to use the data for legal cases, skip tracing, and corporate intelligence. Experts call this unethical and possibly illegal. You have the EPIC and the EFF. They both warn this sets a dangerous precedent. Once your data is stolen, it can be bought and used against you again and again. So here's the real question. If the market legitimizes stolen data, are we still even pretending privacy exists? So Amazon, they just got schooled. Their AI coding assistant, Q, was compromised when a hacker submitted a malicious pull request to the GitHub repo. The code was a prompt instructing Q to wipe users' machines and delete cloud resources. Now, the hacker wasn't even stealthy. They were bold. They said they did it to prove Amazon's open source security posture was a joke. And you know what? They might be right. Amazon didn't catch the issue until after they published the update. So this is a warning. AI tools, as we've said over and over, they are a new attack vector, whether it's through poison training data, malicious prompts, or sneaky code changes. They're vulnerable. The more we automate, the more tempting the automation becomes to attackers. So you've got to patch your pipelines, folks, and stop handing out admin access like it's Halloween candy. Now, for a change, here's a win. Microsoft just rolled out linkable identifiers for Entra ID. Now, this means that every access token now contains metadata like session IDs, device IDs, tenant IDs. So if a user gets compromised, well, security teams, they can now trace their digital breadcrumbs across Microsoft services. And so it's live currently for Teams, SharePoint, Graph, and Exchange. And finally, we get traceability without needing 12 separate log files and divine intervention. Well, fitness meets failure. Fitify, it has over 25 million installs, and it exposed nearly 140,000 sensitive progress photos by misconfiguring a Google Cloud storage bucket. And many of the images were intimate. Think before and after shots with minimal clothing. Worse, the app had hard-coded secrets into the code, including Firebase credentials and API keys, potentially exposing even more backend data. So, security tip, don't hard-code secrets, and maybe don't promise users their data is encrypted if your cloud bucket is just wide open to the public. Now, many of you may have saw on trending social media that if you have Ring security cameras, Ring doorbell systems, that if you looked at your history, the login history on your app, you would have seen quite a few logins on May 28th, 2025. Thousands of Ring users reported unknown devices accessing their accounts. Social media said it was a hack, but Ring said, no, it's just a glitch. Turns out it was a back-end bug that mislabeled old devices and login records as new ones. And there was no breach, no MFA compromise, but public trust was definitely shaken, and Ring, who's owned by Amazon, didn't help by taking weeks to respond. Now, another app that it's called T. It was a women-only dating safety app. It was hacked. 72,000 verification photos and 59,000 private posts and messages were accessed. And some of these things included, your driver's license ID, which T promised were deleted. It's really brutal irony because an app built to protect women from predatory men ended up exposing its most vulnerable data. And the lesson is security can't be an afterthought, especially when privacy is your value prop. I've been reading that, unfortunately, this data, anyone can go on the dark web and download it. And they're now taking these IDs and seeing what some people said about them and going to these people's house and threatening them and things. So definitely not a good situation to be in. Now, Clorox, we're all the household brand Clorox that was breached back in 2023. They are suing Cognizant. It's a very common, IT outsourcing company, Cognizant, which was their IT support vendor, claiming their help desk gave hackers employee credentials over the phone. This is, again, the 2023 breach that cost Clorox $380 million. And the lawsuit includes call transcripts where help desk agents gave out passwords without even verifying identity. So this isn't just a lapse in protocol. It's failure of culture. If your support team can't even spot a scam, you've already lost. This week's must-read was a blistering op-ed challenging toxic CISO behavior. And the title is The CISO Code of Conduct, Ditch the Ego, Lead for Real. Too many CISOs posture instead of lead. They build echo chambers instead of teams, and they treat vendors like punching bags. True leadership, it's not about being the smartest person in the room. It's about enabling trust, owning mistakes, and mentoring future leaders. So let's stop rewarding titles and start rewarding integrity, because the future of this field depends on it. I was listening to another podcast talking about people that say, hey, I've got 30 years in this profession, so I'm therefore qualified. And this was a very young person that was very wise and said, just because you've got 30 years in the position, you may only have 1 year experience. Meaning you can sit and do the same thing over and over for 30 years, but if you're not growing, learning, changing, adapting, you really don't have 30 years experience, and you probably are not qualified to do anything but that job that you've done. Now, here's something about AI. 1 in every 80 enterprise AI prompts leaks sensitive data. AI governance, it's the top GRC priority for this year, but only 24% of companies have policies. And also a top secret service official, they were nearly swatted using a voice deepfake. Only reason it failed, the cop knew the guy didn't have a daughter. Well, that wraps another week of Cybersecurity Whisperer. So don't forget to subscribe, share with a friend, and remember, tools don't fix culture, and AI won't save you from stupid. I'm Elliott Franklin. Stay skeptical, stay sharp, and lead for real. Thanks.